Our rules are simple, but the challenge is great. No shoulder pets, tames that can be carried, or typical boss dinos allowed. That means no Rexes, Therazinos, or any other dinos people normally use in these fights. Equipped with official server cap saddles, our 19 contenders will be backed by the commanding presence of a loyal Uteranus, providing that extra boost. All competitors will go into battle with food to provide a healing effect. Herbivores will have plenty of sweet veggie cakes, and carnivores and omnivores will have cooked meat. I won't be using the Overseer because the movement speed required to get through the tech cave and then chase the Overseer during the fight would shorten our list by a lot. It's important to note that the tames in this series aren't typically used during boss battles because the amount of mutations you need to make them competitive, but all the dinos competing will have around 23,000 health and 1200% melee. This will give them all a fair shot at defeating at least one of the guardians. It won't always be feasible to reach these stats depending on the dinos I'm using, but I will let you know the amount of mutations and levels it took in order to reach it. All competitors start out with 50 base health and melee, and 40 points in everything else before I apply mutations and experience levels. You can decide on your own servers if it's worth pursuing. Competitors are required to fight the Megapithecus, Broodmother, then the Dragon on all difficulties starting with Gamma, then Beta, finishing with Alpha. Their success will be annotated on this scorecard with a pass or fail system. Now let's introduce our competitor and see if they have what it takes. The Terror Bird. These highly aggressive pack animals roam the redwoods and river areas on the Ark. They travel in small groups and have brought many survivors to an early grave. The competitors today have the following stats, which took 60 mutations and 60 experience levels to reach. 30 mutations and 40 experience levels went into health, and 30 mutations and 20 experience points went into melee. The Terror Bird isn't typically thought of outside of caving, but let's see if these brave underbirds have what it takes. The green portal is fired up and the angry avians are ready to storm into the snow arena of the Gamma Megapithecus and unleash hell. I had a feeling we'd have some aggro issues during this one, so I decided to bring the fight to the Monkey Man to see if I could create some separation and lose aggro from the distance. It turns out it didn't really matter how far I got away from the Megapithecus. He was locked on and focused on turning me into dust. Fortunately, this is just a Gamma boss, and the underbirds crushed him, earning their first pass. I had similar aggro issues with the Gamma Broodmother. Normally I can create some distance with her and she'll lose aggro from me, but not this time. She was pretty locked on. At this stage, the underbirds had a little more than half of her 324,000 health pool whittled down, so it was just smooth sailing from here, but naturally I had concerns for later rounds due to the aggro. In a pretty one-sided affair, the Terror Turkeys got it done, earning their second pass of the day. Up next, we have the Gamma Dragon. During this fight, I tried the same strategy that worked during the Hyaenodon fight and ran away. Once again, I couldn't lose aggro. Something was different with the Terror Birds. It's wild how many different variations of this that have happened in this series. I tried to break aggro so much during this fight that Commander Ute started to look like Freddy Krueger sucked on a chainsaw. We might be getting some inflated stats with these short guys because the Terror Birds are just not that good. Their lack of ability to dish out the big damage gets a little more relevant later, but for the Gamma Dragon's small 432,000 health pool, it was enough and scored them their third pass. The blue portal was up, which meant it was beta boss time. For our first one, the Beta Megapithecus. This beta baddie has a health pool of 396,000, which isn't that much more than the Gamma Broodmother. He was easy work for the Power Parrots, and they sent his ass packing, earning another pass. Would you believe it? I was able to avoid getting aggro. The Beta Broodmother, with her 640,000 health pool, turned her attention to the Terror Birds right off the bat. But it didn't last long, because as soon as I started trying to get into Courage Roar range, she came running for daddy. Maybe she was jealous that her big sister, the Alpha Broodmother, and I have a thing going on, so I made it up to her by letting the underbirds have a bite of her big ass. Tanking the Beta Brood isn't that bad, but we still had the looming issue ahead of us. It was almost time for the Alpha bosses. The Terror Birds were successful in this fight, earning another pass. At the start of the Beta Dragon fight, I tried to engage him with the birds from far away, but he still had aggro on me, so I tried to shove the Yudi under him sideways in the position I've had success with in the past. This position typically makes it so that the bites and fire can't reach the Uteranus. If you haven't noticed by now, the Terror Bird DPS is one of the lowest ones that we've had in this series. If it wasn't for their ability to get under the hitbox of the dragon, then I'd probably immediately fail them. Something you don't see too much of during this fight is the Terror Birds flying off the cliff. I know there's a force field there, but when the minions come flying down and the Terror Birds go full crackhead mode, they can force themselves off that cliff and die. I lost several of them between all the fights. They're very erratic creatures. A lot of repositioning was required during this fight. The Beta Dragon always seems to fly away more than the Gamma or the Alpha Dragons. It makes for a very challenging fight because you get hit with that fire breath a lot more. I lost at least a dozen of the underbirds during this fight, which wasn't very promising before the alpha stage. In total, the beta dragon comes in with 864,000 health. Sometimes I truly think he gives me more trouble than the alpha dragon, but not this time, as we get our 6th pass. With the red portal up, the bird brigade was ready to rock and deliver a vicious pecking to the alpha megapithecus. I had a little bit of success during this fight by slowly backing away with the birds between me and the big man. It would make him pause a lot more to hit, but at least he wouldn't trample over the seagull squad and chase me the entire fight. The alpha megapithecus only comes packing 540,000 health. Creating this series has opened my eyes quite a bit with a lot of misinformation that frequently gets spread in the art community and is taken as gospel. I believed for the longest time that the megapithecus hit harder than the broodmother. Boy, was I wrong. The broodmother is actually almost twice as difficult as the megapithecus. They're not even comparable. And once again, one of our weakest competitors whips out a dominating victory over the alpha megapithecus. To demonstrate how true that is, take a look at how brutal the ever-gorgeous alpha broodmother is. She's only lost a third of her health, and I already had to abandon Commander Utes and find an underbird. Now, I know she just wanted to get me alone, and this wouldn't normally happen if we weren't using such a small creature with aggro issues, but her and I have what some people would call a special relationship, and sometimes Commander Utes isn't allowed to watch. And boy, does he like to watch. The broodmother put this fight to rest quickly and still had about 50% of her massive 972,000 health pool remaining by the time my underbird died. She crushed the terror birds and served us a fail. This fight with the alpha dragon was extremely long compared to others I've done. Maybe 5% of the alpha dragon's health was gone before we had terror birds dropping. It was only maybe 60 seconds later that I did my last courage roar and transferred to one of the burbs and started to go to work on those disgusting dragon toes. Once again, I had to watch Commander Utes burn to death. It's a good thing he gets reincarnated constantly because I don't know where I'd be without him. This is it, folks. The ultimate strategy to make this fight winnable with anything. Just tear up them feet. Here you'll see the crazy crackhead moment I talked about earlier. These guys go absolutely nuts and wind up jumping off that cliff, so try to stay away. The fight eventually devolved into this. One underbird stuck in the lava river, and the other helping me suck dragon toes. The big guy comes in with 972,000 health, the same as the broodmother. I kept the fight going because it was another AI underbird helping out. Otherwise, I would have failed this like I did with the frog. This dude spun around like this for quite a while, which was the first time I've ever seen this. And in the end, it didn't really matter because the terror birds squeaked out a hard-fought win, earning their final pass of the night. The terror bird marks the 13th creature of the series. Soon, I'll be adding a kind of summary screen at the end that lists past creatures that have completed the trial and where they stood. I'm still designing it, and I want to make sure it's simple and clear for you, so keep an eye out for that in the future. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to help this community grow. Please feel free to comment below if there's any dinos you'd like to see compete. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.